Ladies and gentlemen, let me pose a question. How many of you have ever smiled when you didn't feel like it? How many times have you found yourself being overly accommodating just to avoid an uncomfortable situation? Now ask yourself, why? Why do we, especially women, often go out of our way to be excessively friendly to men even when it doesn't feel genuine or aligned with our true selves? You see, our society has developed a certain narrative. It's the idea that being kind and friendly, always smiling and being perpetually warm to others is a virtue. But here's the catch. It's not always virtuous, and it's certainly not always healthy. Sometimes in our efforts to be accommodating, we weaken our own boundaries, we undermine our own agency, and we ignore being overly friendly or accommodating often comes at the expense of personal boundaries, which are critical for maintaining a sense of self-respect and individuality. While friendliness is often seen as a positive trait, excessive friendliness, particularly when it's forced or unreciprocated, can send the wrong message to others and, more importantly, undermine your internal sense of agency. When you continually prioritize the comfort or approval of others over your own needs, you create a dynamic in which your boundaries are not just ignored, but actively eroded. This can lead to situations where you feel obligated to tolerate behavior that makes you uncomfortable, simply because you've conditioned others to expect compliance from you. People often confuse politeness or excessive friendliness with strength, believing it demonstrates emotional maturity or social grace. In reality, however, it can have the opposite effect. When your interactions are not rooted in your true feelings or principles, they come across as superficial, even disingenuous. Over time, this can lead to a sense of resentment or frustration, both with others and with yourself. If you're always the one accommodating, deferring, or smoothing things over, you start to internalize the belief that your own needs and boundaries don't matter as much as those of others. The consequences of this dynamic are especially pronounced in interactions with men, where social conditioning often encourages women to be overly polite or warm, even in situations where it doesn't feel appropriate. This can create a power imbalance. Men who encounter such excessive friendliness may unconsciously interpret it as a signal of weakness, submissiveness, or a lack of confidence. It's not necessarily malicious on their part, it's simply human nature to take cues from others' behavior. If you don't establish firm boundaries and act authentically, you unintentionally invite others to treat you as though those boundaries don't exist. The problem with this pattern is that it's self-perpetuating. The more you allow your boundaries to be undermined through excessive friendliness, the more others will expect the same behavior from you. And the more you comply, the harder it becomes to reassert your sense of agency. By trying to avoid discomfort or conflict, you inadvertently create situations where your own comfort and well-being are compromised. In the end, maintaining strong, clear boundaries is far more effective in fostering respect and meaningful connections than being overly accommodating ever could be. Kindness, when expressed authentically, is one of the most powerful and admirable traits a person can have. It fosters trust, strengthens relationships, and promotes a sense of community. However, when kindness becomes a performative act, rooted not in genuine care, but in a fear of rejection, a desire for approval, or an obligation to conform, it loses its integrity. True kindness must come from a place of authenticity, where your actions align with your values and are not compromised by external pressures or societal expectations. Many people, especially women, are socialized to equate politeness with virtue. From an early age, there's an implicit understanding that being nice, agreeable, and accommodating is a way to navigate the world, especially in interactions with men. While there's nothing inherently wrong with being pleasant, when it becomes a default response, one detached from your real feelings or intentions, it can lead to unintended consequences. This type of kindness is often rooted in self-sacrifice rather than self-expression, which can erode your sense of self-worth over time. The danger of inauthentic kindness is that it sends mixed signals. When you are overly friendly, even when you don't want to be, you communicate a lack of clarity about your boundaries. This can lead to situations where others take advantage of your perceived warmth or view you as someone who is malleable and easy to manipulate. The respect you hope to gain through such friendliness often doesn't materialize because people can sense when an interaction lacks sincerity. Instead, It's authenticity, being clear, honest, and genuine, that earns respect and fosters deeper connections. Being authentically kind also means knowing when kindness is not the answer. There are moments when being overly accommodating may enable behavior that you don't agree with, or that compromises your values. It's important to recognize that saying no, setting firm boundaries, or even confronting uncomfortable truths can be acts of kindness, not only to yourself, but also to the other person. Authenticity requires the courage to stay true to yourself, even if it means risking disapproval or conflict. Ultimately, kindness without authenticity is hollow. True kindness carries weight because it is grounded in a deep respect for yourself and others. When you act from a place of authenticity, your kindness becomes meaningful, transformative, and most importantly, sustainable. Politeness is often considered a social lubricant, a way to smooth over interactions and maintain harmony in relationships. However, when politeness becomes a substitute for assertiveness, it can lead to a loss of personal power and create dynamics where your own needs, boundaries, and feelings are overlooked. While being polite has its place in fostering respectful communication, it should never come at the cost of your own sense of agency or self-respect. In many situations, people resort to politeness as a way to avoid conflict or discomfort. This is especially common in interactions where there is a perceived imbalance of power or societal expectations, such as between men and women. But for him, for instance, a woman might smile, agree, or engage in friendly conversation, not because she wants to, but because she feels obligated to maintain a polite demeanor. While this may seem harmless on the surface, it often sends a message that compliance is more important than authenticity. Over time, this behavior can erode self-confidence and reinforce a pattern of self-silencing. The problem with relying on politeness is that it can prevent you from expressing your true thoughts and feelings. When you prioritize being agreeable over being honest, you create a situation where others are left to interpret your actions and words in ways that may not align with your intentions. For example, excessive politeness can be misinterpreted as interest, approval, or even consent, leading to misunderstandings that could have been avoided with clearer communication. In this sense, politeness without assertiveness can do more harm than good. Assertiveness, on the other hand, allows you to communicate your needs and boundaries in a way that is both respectful and clear. It doesn't mean being rude or confrontational. It simply means being honest about where you stand. When you replace excessive politeness with assertiveness, you create interactions based on mutual respect rather than unspoken expectations. This clarity not only strengthens your sense of self, but also encourages others to respect you as a person with firm principles. True strength lies in the ability to balance politeness with assertiveness. You can be kind and respectful without compromising your authenticity or allowing others to take advantage of you. By standing firm in your values and expressing yourself honestly, you foster healthier relationships and a stronger sense of personal integrity. Respect is a fundamental component of any meaningful relationship, but it cannot be earned through politeness or excessive accommodation alone. Genuine respect stems from clarity, integrity, and the ability to communicate your boundaries and values confidently. When you prioritize being liked over being respected, you risk losing both, as people often value and respond to strength of character more than they do agreeableness. Too often people fall into the trap of thinking that being overly accommodating or pleasant will naturally lead to respect. While kindness and warmth can be admirable traits, they must be paired with a strong sense of self and a willingness to assert your needs and boundaries. Without these, excessive friendliness can come across as insincere or even submissive, which can diminish the way others perceive you. Respect is not granted to those who bend themselves to fit the expectations of others. It is earned by those who are unwavering in their authenticity. Being clear about your boundaries is a key part of earning respect. When you communicate your limits effectively, you signal to others that you value yourself and that you expect the same from them. This doesn't mean being confrontational or rigid. It means being honest about what you will and will not tolerate. For instance, if you find yourself in a situation where someone's behavior crosses a line, addressing it calmly but firmly demonstrates strength and self-respect. It also sets a precedent that you are someone who takes your own well-being seriously, which naturally earns the respect of others. Integrity is another crucial element of respect. Living in alignment with your values and principles shows that you are not easily swayed by external pressures. People respect those who stand firm in their beliefs, even when it's inconvenient or unpopular. This kind of integrity inspires trust because it reflects consistency and reliability, two qualities that are essential in any relationship. Ultimately, respect is not something you can demand or manipulate others into giving. It must be cultivated through your actions and attitude. When you prioritize clarity and integrity in your interactions, you demonstrate a deep respect for yourself, which others are more likely to mirror. By standing firm in who you are and what you believe, you not only earn respect, but also foster more authentic and meaningful connections with those around you. Men, like anyone else, respond most positively to authenticity and strength of character. When you present yourself as overly friendly or accommodating, it can unintentionally communicate a sense of weakness or lack of confidence. This is not to say that friendliness is inherently wrong, but when it is excessive or forced, it often undermines the respect you aim to foster. Instead, demonstrating self-respect through clear boundaries and a grounded sense of self earns genuine admiration and appreciation. Human interactions are shaped by unspoken signals. When you are overly accommodating, even when it feels unnatural or uncomfortable, it sends a message that your feelings or needs are secondary. This can create a dynamic where the other person, consciously or not, perceives you as someone who can be taken for granted or influenced without effort. For men, who are often conditioned to value challenge and effort, excessive friendliness can diminish the sense that your respect, attention, or trust must be earned. Relationships, whether professional, social, or romantic, thrive on mutual respect, and mutual respect begins with the recognition of boundaries. Strength doesn't mean being cold or unkind. It means being comfortable enough in your own identity to show kindness on your terms. Men respect individuals who are genuine, who say what they mean, and who engage with intention. When friendliness is authentic, it carries weight and meaning, but when it becomes a default setting, devoid of sincerity, it can lose its impact and lead to misunderstandings. For instance, excessive friendliness might be misinterpreted as interest or approval, even when that is not your intent. Moreover, when you carry yourself with confidence and self-respect, you set a standard for how others should treat you. Men are more likely to approach you with the seriousness and respect you deserve when they perceive that you value yourself and won't tolerate behavior that undermines your worth. This clarity in your demeanor establishes healthier dynamics and avoids the pitfalls of miscommunication that can arise from forced politeness or unnecessary accommodation. Ultimately, the key to fostering respect is striking a balance between warmth and strength. When you are authentic in your interactions, men are not only more likely to respect you, but also to view your kindness and attention as something meaningful, rather than something they are entitled to by default. Authenticity paired with confidence is what commands true respect. Taking ownership of your interactions means approaching relationships and conversations with intention, authenticity, and clarity. Too often, people fall into patterns of excessive friendliness or politeness as a way to navigate social expectations or avoid discomfort. While this may feel like the easiest path in the moment, it ultimately comes at the expense of your autonomy. To truly take control of your interactions, you must stop acting out of obligation and start engaging on your own terms, ensuring that your actions reflect your genuine thoughts and values. When you approach every interaction with the goal of being liked or avoiding conflict, you give away your power. By defaulting to excessive friendliness, you shift the focus away from mutual respect and place it solely on maintaining harmony. This might seem harmless, but over time it creates a dynamic where you feel less in control of your relationships. You might find yourself agreeing to things you don't want, tolerating behavior that makes you uncomfortable, or feeling drained by interactions that don't align with your needs or values. Taking ownership means being mindful of your behavior and ensuring it reflects your true self. This involves setting boundaries and communicating them clearly. Boundaries are not about pushing people away. They are about defining what is acceptable and unacceptable for you, which helps foster healthier and more respectful relationships. When you set boundaries and stick to them, you're not only protecting your own well-being, but also encouraging others to engage with you in a way that is mutually respectful. Engaging on your own terms doesn't mean being dismissive or cold. It means making a conscious choice about how you interact with others. This requires confidence and self-awareness. It means recognizing when friendliness is genuine and when it's being used as a mask for fear or discomfort. When you act out of obligation or social pressure, your interactions lack authenticity, and people can sense that. Conversely, when your actions come from a place of intention and honesty, they carry greater weight and meaning. Owning your interactions also involves letting go of the need for universal approval. Not everyone will agree with your boundaries or appreciate your authenticity, and that's okay. What matters most is that you stay true to yourself. By engaging with intention and authenticity, you create relationships and interactions that are more meaningful, balanced, and empowering.